Hey everyone, I'm Scott Cunningham, aka Scottsy Business, and today we're going to be covering my amateur investing report for the month of November. So we're going to be covering all of the stock buys I made, all of the crypto that I've purchased, anything that I've kind of shifted around, as well as the dividends I've earned, the passive crypto that I've earned, and we're also going to be diving into my budget as a kind of year-end overview. I think it's important to keep myself accountable and to show you guys what I'm really doing through and through, because essentially these updates are not just, how I'm doing, but it's also to sort of provide a documentation of the journey that it would take from zero to retirement in a short period of time. And that's essentially what I've been trying to do, retiring in 10 years or less. We're still only just a little past 2 years into this. So I've still got 8 more years to go, and we're already well past a third of the way. So very, very fantastic to see. But before we dive into all this good stuff, a quick word from my sponsor. A big thank you and shout out to my sponsor, Cake Wallet, which is an open source, non-custodial Bitcoin and Monero wallet that also has a built-in exchange. It's available on iOS and Android. Okay, so let's dive in. I'm going to just kind of quickly, or more quickly than usual, go through the usual stuff, and then we'll take a little bit of extra time at the end to cover my budget and what I spent for the year, and kind of just reconciling some of that, and also keeping myself accountable going forward, because I intend to save 25% more than I did this year. So we'll get into all that. Anyways, last month I earned $84 in dividends, a little low, but it's kind of up and down, as you see with the graph here. Charting this, it's always kind of going up and then dipping a little bit and then going up and dipping a little bit, but it's always generally trending up, so that's not a big issue. A lot of stocks have been pulling down their dividends a little bit, so it's not unreasonable to see this. I expect that we'll start January at an all-time high though for dividends, so I'm excited for that. And nothing important to really note here. The total dividends earned now is this updated? Yes, it is. Okay, so $1,145.67 is my total earnings for dividends, and that closes. Well, that won't close off the year, but I'll be reporting on the yearly end of everything very soon. I'll do it early in January to kind of cover the previous year. But I will be doing my budget overview now, since it is December 29th, and I feel like it's relevant to cover as well. So crypto income, I earned $52.80. I will cover what that's actually valued at now. It's closer to like $43, given that things have started to go down a little bit, unfortunately. But it's all a part of the game, and you can see here that we're massively trending upwards regardless. Now that I've been focusing more and more on crypto passive income, and this will continue to go up as I continue to build that out. For other passive income, I haven't been earning anything else in terms of like royalty payments or anything like that. At the beginning of December, my crypto portfolio was at 309,000. And sadly, it's significantly dipped down to 240,000 today. That's quite the drop. It's still nothing compared to what I've seen before. We've just got a lot of, it feels a little bearish right now, but I'm still very, very bullish on the stock to flow model, on how the halvings affect Bitcoin's price, and most importantly, Ethereum 2.0 launching in the next 3 months or so. This isn't exactly how I wanted to end off 2021, but I still have all the high hopes going into 2022. I'm very, very confident in Bitcoin and Ethereum. The main issue that we have right now is people like Elon Musk and Jack Dorsey conflating Web3 with the metaverse, and then conflating all of that with being Ethereum. I don't really think Ethereum is Web3 or the metaverse in the way that it's being positioned, because the metaverse, as we kind of understand it colloquially, is related to like content and, like virtual real estate and stuff like that. I think all of this is very, very easily achieved with the Hive ecosystem and has solved the problems that are presented with building the metaverse for gas fees, etc. with like Ethereum. A lot of this has already been kind of dealt with, and Hive and Steam have been around for a long, long time, over 5 years now, I believe, like for Steam, and then forking into Hive, if you consider that all the same, rather than if you just considered Hive when it originally forked from Steam, then obviously you wouldn't consider it to be that old, but it's generally the same mechanics. So it's not like it was something new when that happened. Anyways, Hive is, in my opinion, the true idea of the metaverse. They just haven't really built it out enough. Because what we really have now with like Roblox and all these different things is the Centraverse. It's all centralized. I'll really dive into this and flesh this out in another video, but it's important to understand how the market is reacting to a lot of this stuff. Metaverse is very, very hype related. It's a bubble, unfortunately. And I think a lot of the altcoins and meme coins and all that stuff is a bubble. And I will also cover that in another video in the future. So it's not super important for right now. But given that I'm down about close to $100,000 from my all-time high, which isn't necessarily recorded here because it was an in-between month before we saw massive dips and that big pullback after over $1 billion worth of Bitcoin was sold. I'm still very, very confident in where we're going. I've seen bigger dips, like when Elon Musk did his tweet way back in March, I believe it was, or May or somewhere around there. And I still have all the confidence in where we're going. So I'm not selling. I slightly regret not maybe taking a little bit more profit at the top, but I still have all the confidence in where we're going. So this isn't like a concern for me at all. And I'm very confident that very soon we will see these numbers start to skyrocket again. So it's not super concerning to me. For stocks, I was down a little bit at the beginning of December, but I've since pulled back and I'm now at new all-time highs, which is nice. 38,000. So it's above anything we've seen previously. So that's really good to see. And that will be reflected probably in the next update. I haven't been really doing much investing in the past 2 months or so. But going forward, now that I've kind of paid back all the tax that I spent on my Bitcoin at the beginning of the year, which is foolish, but worked out beautifully for me just because of timing, I'm going to just be maxing out my TFSA for the first 4 to 6 months of the year, I guess. And then going forward, I will have to decide exactly what I want to do. But I'm assuming Bitcoin and crypto in general will have already gone through a massive peak in new all-time highs, and then consequently after that a crash, and then I'll probably start buying back in again after that. So that's kind of my 6-month plan generally. In terms of budget, I haven't clocked in my December budget yet, but it was pretty high. Like, I mean, I bought a bunch of like gifts and different things, and I was able to spend pretty modestly in November, which was good. And I was at 44,000, but I'm ending the year at around 47,000. That will be reflected in the next update. It's not fantastic, but I will be going through my budget entirely to show you exactly why it's so much more than I would usually like to spend. Last year, I only spent about 26,000. So almost getting close to the realm of double, but significantly more, essentially. But I did spend a lot that was all tax deductible. Over $11,000 of this is tax deductible. So, I'm going to in some way get that back, or not really have to have spent that as a normal expense. So that is very, very different from previous years where I didn't have a lot of deductions. So that is important to note. And I will get into all that when we actually look at that. But before we dive into that, we'll look at the actual overall portfolio and how everything breaks out, to get a little bit more granular on individual changes and visualizing how everything looks right now. So as I said, I'm at 320,000, or I don't know if I said that, but I'm at 320,000 in total. My last update, I was at 378 or somewhere around there. I'm down about 60,000 or so from the last one. It was something around there. It's unfortunate, but at the same time, it's going to happen, especially when you're very, very heavily invested in crypto, as you know I am. I've been building up my liquid cash a lot more. So you can see I have a lot more than I usually do. That's really just for paying taxes. I don't like keeping a lot of cash around. I keep a very, very small amount, like 5% or less, because I don't want to deal with inflation and all the things that happen there when I could just do stuff with crypto. And it's much more secure and safe. So that's the way that I kind of go about it. But regardless, in terms of crypto, this is the growth breakdown. I've also added in, you know what, I'll just jump to the actual thing here. I've also started to include Terra and Polygon because I'm going to start stacking that up essentially. I'm not going out and buying it, but when I earn new crypto, I typically am going to be converting it into Terra and Polygon, as well as I'm going to start looking into more privacy coins. Right now, I'm only building up my Monero, but once I've done a full deep dive on everything, I will decide what other privacy coins I will be investing in as well. But right now, it's just Monero. So this is like a new thing where I'm also going to be taking some of my new investments and new earnings and just putting it into Monero. It's kind of going to be a four-way split between Terra, Polygon, Monero, and the newly added Cosmos Atom for staking as well. I'm also starting to stake BNB, so I might be adding a little bit more to that. So it might be a five-way split. We'll see exactly how it all breaks out, but generally, my new earnings are going to be going to these newer coins and building these up, and then my Blurt and all my Hive is just going into Hive. My Tron is staying in Tron. And once ETH gas fees go down, I will sell out all of my MTR because the price keeps going down. The fees keep going up. It's not really sustainable. And I just want to get this money out. I mean, it's not super valuable and it's going down in value anyways. But, it's worth putting in that little extra bit of time just to get that money out. But I'm hoping that will be made possible by Ethereum's sharding update with ETH 2.0, allowing fees to be massively scaled down. So that's it. I just bought a little bit of Cosmos, just starting to play around with all the different staking mechanisms and seeing what I prefer the most. As you guys know, I'm always doing all these different tests and reviews. So right now I've been reviewing different exchanges, different wallets, different staking cryptocurrencies. So I'm doing a lot of testing right now and seeing what works the best. I will be reporting on all this hopefully sooner than later. And then you guys will get an inside view of what that all looks like. I did earn quite a bit of Tron from various crypto payments and different things. I just put it all back into Tron, staked it, and I'm continuing to build up this passive income here. In total, all of my passive generating crypto is worth about $8,000, and it's generating, fairly decent yield. So far, I've earned $264 Canadian, though it's not really reflective of this annually because I only started really getting back into this more recently, and it'll be more reflective next year, I think. But I'll continually adding to it as I compound it and earn more. In terms of my dividend investments, because that's mainly the only other thing that we need to cover as far as I know here, I did spend a little bit of my Dash when it was up more, just as a kind of a heads up there. And I earned a little bit of Litecoin. But for the most part, this hasn't changed very drastically. A lot of these percentages are still the same. Things are just kind of down because crypto in general is down. But luckily, my stock portfolio is doing pretty well. We did have some dips earlier in the month, and now things have kind of returned back to normal. The only thing I've even bought is just upping my usual Tangerine dividend portfolio investment fund, just adding $100 into there, nothing special. I've got a little bit of money that I'll probably end up putting into insurance to balance this out again, because it's not super balanced. You can see that for real estate and insurance, I'm a little bit below 20%, and I'd like to be around 20%. So I'm going to kind of even that out a little bit with that money, but it's nothing really that big. So it's not super important to note. Again, not a lot of activity has been happening in terms of investing lately. It's been a lot of holding and just saving up cash to pay my taxes in the new year. Speaking of which, let's talk about my budget and tax deductions, more importantly. I don't usually cover my budget a lot, so this is going to be another kind of overview and review of my budget in a mini within this video, because I could have done its own video, but I figured I would just do this all at the same time because it's somewhat relevant to each other. I've covered my budget in the past, exactly how I do this. I include a template for you guys to be able to do the same thing. This is literally my entire life. You guys can see it through and through. Every dollar I spend every single day, when I'm spending it, my tax deductions, literally everything. This is just kind of showing you how you could do things. Mine is significantly more complex than what most people would do, because I've got my regular fiat expenses, ones I pay with PayPal, the totals, and then the total of what I spend with crypto on its own, which is significantly less than it was before, only because I stopped actively testing out ways to spend. I still know that they'll work. I've tested them all very thoroughly, but now I've been focused on just leaving my crypto, holding it, not necessarily spending it and using it as much as I was previously. I think something that is important to add that I didn't used to have is comparing it to the previous year. So adding the last year expenses and then side by side comparing them. And it's also good to break out your spending into different categories, like things you need, things you don't necessarily need, things that you could cut out, so that I can see I only spent a little bit more on things that I actually needed this year. And that included things like going to the dentist, renewing my driver's license, things like that. I've started spending a little bit more money on Instacart deliveries versus going to the grocery store. I've found that with the money that I'm making with my day job and from crypto, that I can make a pretty good amount of money in just 1 hour. So the hour that is spent shopping ends up being essentially like cutting into my profits. And I want as much time as possible throughout the day to be able to complete everything I need to do. An extra hour is a big deal. Some people would say, oh, like, I like shopping, or it's calming, or whatever, and that is fine. But if you do a cost benefit analysis and you look and you're like, if I was working instead, or if I was doing this instead, how much am I really getting out of this? Because if it takes you an hour or even longer than an hour, when you include travel and then you include how much did you spend on gas and all these different things, it really adds up. And you can almost save money even with spending on the delivery if you do the $100 subscription. Plus, it lets you shop from Costco and get all the Costco deals. So they just recently started including in-store deals on the website or the app as well. Pretty significant. I mean, this isn't an ad for them, but if you're really looking for ways to optimize your time, ordering groceries is actually substantially going to improve that. And again, some people might say, oh, well, you don't need to always be looking for ways to be productive, or like, I like the relaxingness of just getting the groceries. I guess. But you could do that for anything. I mean, depends how you want to spend your time. Do you want to spend your free time grocery shopping, or do you want to spend your free time with your family for that extra hour? Or, if you're like me and you want to be really productive, then you can use that extra hour to work and make significantly more money than I would end up spending. So there's a lot of ways to look at that, but whether it's maid service or grocery delivery or anything, even something where you're just spending money, like getting a massage. What is the cost benefit analysis? If I'm going to get a massage and the satisfaction and, stress relief and just like how good it is for your mental health and your body, if that pays out for me to do way more productive and efficient work for the rest of the week, then the money spent on the massage was very well spent. It really depends what you're doing, because as you can see, I have massages here. I'm going to be doing them much less because I was slightly confused with the way that the health deductions worked for taxes in Canada. It's after you spend $2,300. Everything beyond that can be tax deductible through a business. And as you know that I'm frugal, I would never get close to spending that much money. So it's not really worth it unless I have some big medical expense that does put me over that. Then anything beyond that would be 100%, I believe, tax deductible or somewhere close to that. And then you could go and get massages and do all that stuff, because in Ontario, that is included as a health expense that could be expensed through your business. If you have a small business, being able to do any kind of tax deductions is massive. As you can see here on the side, I've included what is tax deductible, and I've kept everything within a very reasonable limit. Only 30% of my utilities, only 30% of my rent. You don't want to push it because then you can get audited. There's people who would argue 50%, they'd include clothing. You can try and get as close to the line as possible, but you never want to get close enough that you have to be audited. It's just not worth it. So I'm doing the more the lower end of what you could submit as tax deductible. But regardless, because there's a lot of office supplies, computer upgrades, my camera, lots and lots of things, that ends up being quite a bit of money, and you get to deduct about 75% of that, which is pretty substantial. So the total of all the deductions that I will get from this year comes to $11,225. You do have to consider that most of it is deferred across multiple years. For example, with computer parts, I get a 75% deduction, but it's over 4 years typically. So it would be, 75% of this money, but then divided by 4, paid out, or not paid out, but deducted off my taxes each of those 4 years. So you're almost getting the majority of it back. It's just going to be spread out. And as you spend, obviously it will kind of change and shrink over the years. But regardless, you're going to generally save that money or get it deducted over time. So basically, close to 25 to 30% of my expenses this year are deductible, which is very substantial. This really just goes to show why having a small business, why being an entrepreneur can be so impactful, and the amount of money that you can actually save doing so. You can see here that my max projection for this year is about $47,415. Might be a tad bit higher because I had a really, really good year. And when I was reviewing everything, I decided that I would reward myself with buying myself a Nintendo Switch. I'm very into Nintendo things and Super Smash Bros. And all that stuff. And I've never bought a next-gen console. The newest console I had was a Nintendo Wii. And so I was depriving myself of new video games and things of that nature. I decided I would splurge a little bit and get that. So I'm going to be playing Mario Party Superstars and Super Smash Bros. And the likes. But the reason I'm really going through this is to keep myself accountable and, again, show you guys everything through and through, so you know exactly what I'm doing or what I'm not doing, or what I'm spending on and what I'm not spending on, to know that everything it's transparent, it's legit. If you're really going to follow along this journey and you want to truly know everything through and through, I'm giving it all to you. You can see everything through and through. You can see here, I've got this like retirement goal of where I just take my max expense and then times it by 25. The idea is that should cover you for whatever you're going to spend of that amount. I also add on 5,000 because I want it to be able to also cover mortgages, like a mortgage payment, like obviously minus my rent and then add on the mortgage payment. It might be an extra 5,000 or so. It really depends what I end up doing, but I wanted to make sure everything was covered. Next year, I intend to spend at least 13,000 less. But again, a lot of this comes down to my discretionary spending. And that's why it's really important to break all this out, and then you can really easily compare. Because you can see last year, I only spent 2,400 on this discretionary stuff and 6,000 here. So I spent more than double down here and, like 6 times as much here. But again, a lot of this was big upgrades, laptop, camera, a lot of which is tax deductible. But, I'm still not going to make excuses. I mean, I spent a ridiculous amount this year, but compared to the average person of what they're spending based on what they're making, this is actually fairly modest. I've still saved 67% of all of the income that I've made this year and invested it, whether it was already in crypto and I just kept it, or it was in fiat and then I invested it into stock. About 67% of everything I have earned this year. It might actually be ever so slightly lower. It's 66.78. So 66.78% of the money that I've made this year was saved and invested. If you can save at least 65%, technically, if you can do that for 10 years without massively changing your expenses, you should be able to retire. That is kind of what I've been trying to display with all these videos and everything I've been talking about. I'm still on track. I'm still in line with what I'm doing. I found it much easier to just make more money than it is to save more money. However, at the beginning, the most important thing is to save the money, because the original changes that I made have allowed me so much extra room to work within to now be able to buy things that I do want and to reward myself and buy a Switch or get a massage or whatever it happens to be. It was because I shrunk my needs and basically eliminated my wants to get to the point where now, because of that, I can generally get the things that I want. I could buy any car, I could buy whatever I did want to buy, but I'm not going to, obviously. I'm going to keep investing, but that's how you get to this point. I used to cut, like juice in half with water. Then I eliminated juice entirely. I don't even drink milk anymore. I've eliminated so many things from my diet. I still cut my own hair. You can see I got a couple haircuts for like weddings and stuff, but 99% of the time I'm just going to cut my own hair. And even then I still went to First Choice, which a lot of my buddies would cringe at because they get, really proper hairstyles and stuff, but I spend as little as you can possibly spend because that's what I've always done. I hope this is a decent overview. I mean, I'm not going to go line by line because this is already 28 minutes long. I just wanted to kind of give you a little bit of an overview, recognize that I've definitely spent too much, but also acknowledge that I'm still within the boundaries of what I've set for myself. So it's not like I've, disobeyed my own saving rules. I've just made so much money this year that I was a little surprised to see how much I spent in comparison. But it really is true that as you make more money, people almost unconsciously find ways to spend alongside their earning increases. But if you can always stick to a good goal, for me it's 65%, which is insane to most people. Even if you're doing 30%, you're still ahead of the majority of people if you're saving and investing 30% of your income. But I strive to do 65 plus. Do consider that includes tax. So it might be a little less than that. But I ended up using that for Bitcoin back in the day and doing a lot of different things. But regardless, as long as you're doing the bare minimum, like just tracking your budget, is the best place to start, because you really can't start improving until you just get it all down on paper. Like I said, having the previous year, like once you've got some data, then you can compare to the previous year and you can set goals for the next year, and you can really see where your spending is going and reflect on that at the end of the year. It's very, very easy to update this. I know it looks very complex, but it's very easy to update once you've got it generally set up. And again, I always try to link a template to my original one that doesn't include any of the crypto or the PayPal or the extra stuff. It's much more basic, and I have a lot more stuff in here for like business, etc. But you'll be able to do the same thing and kind of just track everything and just have a good overview of where your money is going. And more importantly, you can start playing around where you're like, okay, well, what if I eliminated haircuts, or what if I stopped getting massages, or what if I did this? And then you can see exactly how much money it's going to save you or not save. And then more importantly, you can see how much quicker you could retire by getting to your where you need to get to. Because as we've talked about, I'm aiming for 25 times my yearly expenses to be able to cover them entirely. And that's not easy to do, because we're going to be doing this with dividends. So a simple expense like, $50 a month, $50 a month in dividends could be $15,000, $20,000. And that's going to massively add up. That's the way you got to look at it, because it's not just like, oh, this little expense is, a little bit of money. It's like, no, you have to earn another $15,000 to cover this expense forever. Not just, this small expense is not that big of a deal, but to be able to cover it, you need to invest and save, $15,000 or whatever it happens to be. So you start to see the magnitude of how impactful these things can be. Like me not having milk and spending, $10 every week on milk, $40 a week, $40 a month, close to $500 a year. That is basically what I just said, because here, let's do the math. We might as well do the math. It's 480. And then times 25. So that's 12,000. You need $12,000. I do for lactose-free milk. I would need $12,000 invested, paying out 5% dividends to be able to cover the milk fees. That is substantial. But once you understand this and you start eliminating these little expenses, you realize that your goal that you need to get to starts shrinking exponentially. $12,000 less, $15,000 less. And then that $1 million starts becoming much more in range of being possible to achieve. This is very, very important. It seems very frivolous and very simple, but it's almost impossible to have that kind of visibility on your finances without having a budget. So always, the first step is just start a budget. Once this is all laid out, takes 1 minute a day to just log your whatever expenses that you made that day. I'm very, very intense about it. Literally the second I pay for something and I come back up here, if I order a pizza and then I pay for the pizza and I walk up here and then I type it in right away. I don't even wait till the end of the day. You could do it once a week and spend 30 minutes. You could do it once a month and spend like an hour. But you don't want to make it like work for yourself. It's just kind of like part of my nightly routine where I brush my teeth, update my budget, go to sleep. So again, I think this is very, very important to consider and to start doing, and also understand how you can get deductions and things if you're not just working as an employee. I don't want to keep droning on though, because this has been very, very long. So I appreciate everyone for watching up until this point. Let me know though, are you budgeting? What ways are you finessing taxes, obviously legally? And how are you earning crypto? Are you earning crypto from stocks? I mean, are you earning dividends from stocks? Are you earning crypto from passive income generating cryptocurrencies? Are you just investing and growing your crypto and holding it long term? Let me know all that good stuff in the comments below, and let me know, where do you think we are headed? Are you bullish or bearish for 2022? And do you think Ethereum is going to upgrade and see a big rise in the next few months, or do you think we're going to see more delays? Let me know all of your thoughts on this in the comments below. And also make sure to comment hashtag #1ham in the comments below. And that way I know that you watched to the very end. I always really appreciate it for those of you who do. I'm Scott Cunningham, aka Scottsy Business. Have a great new year. Cheers.